Hey there everyone, Video Game Cabinet here, just doing a video review of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 for the Nintendo Switch. I just spent the last 4 weeks knocking this out. 3 weeks to beat the base game, 88.5 hours, and another week, 24.5 hours to beat the Future Redeemed expansion. My previous experience with the series... back in 2012, I did beat Xenoblade Chronicles on the Nintendo Wii. I never played the definitive edition on Switch with the Future Connected expansion, but maybe someday. And last year, I beat Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as well as the Torna expansion. And years ago, I believe some of the same development team worked on these other two games. Back in high school and college, I beat Xenogears a few times. This is my favorite game of all time, period. And throughout college, I beat the Xenosaga trilogy. I love these games to death. These are my favorite games on PS2. Anyway, so back to Xenoblade Chronicles 3. First of all, just discussing the base game, not the Future Redeemed DLC, but just the base game. Like I said, it took me 3 weeks, 88.5 hours. That's all I played for 3 weeks. I did a good amount of the optional quests, got all but one of the extra heroes that you could get, and I did all the Ascension quests for the main party, and then did a couple Ascension quests for some of the extra heroes. Some of those optional missions, particularly the Ascension missions for the main party, added a lot to the main storyline, and I'm really glad I did them. If you play this game, definitely do the Ascension quests for the main party. Especially... the characters Senna as well as Uni, their Ascension quests add a lot. There's with Senna, there's one of the villains that you run into. You kind of don't know what happens to her, and the follow-up, you figure it out once you play with Senna. And I believe Noah and Mio, you have to do their Ascension quests to continue. But yeah, very important. The other side quests didn't add too much to the overall plot, but they were fun distractions to level up the party anyway, and they did add a little bit to the overall vibe of the world, and got you to learn a little bit more about the culture and everything that was going on behind the scenes of the main storyline. The combat system. Probably my favorite in the trilogy. This time you could have 7 party members instead of 3. Very deep and engrossing. Just like the other 2 games, they had good combat systems as well. As for the storyline itself, I would say it's about as good overall as the other 2 Xenoblades. I think I liked this main party of heroes best out of the 3. Mio's voice actress... powerful performance. She was excellent. She really, whoever that voice actress is, she really brought it. And Noah was also an excellent lead character. He was great. The villain N is one of the best villains in any of these games, any of these Xeno games. He's great. He's definitely a highlight in the game. The other main party members were really good too and endearing. The other villains had a very good presence, but the main villain Zed, I thought his explanation about where he came from was a little bit weak, but overall his demeanor and his presence were really good. But the whole Mobius party, they were cool. They had a good shroud of mystery about them, and there's some really good plot twists throughout the game about who some of them are. And there is a jaw-dropping plot twist at the end of Chapter 4. The first 3 chapters start off a bit slow, but just wait till the last 10 seconds of Chapter 4. It's mind-blowing. And and then things slow down a little bit. The last hour of chapter 5 and the first hour of chapter 6 are absolutely riveting. Lots of great twists, lots of just first-rate storytelling that you expect from, the older Xeno games. I will say, though, when it was all said and done, by the end of chapter 7, the overall plot was good. It was very good. It was epic. But this game and the other Xeno games are just not quite on the level of storytelling that Xenogears and Xenosaga had. The Xenogears and Xenosaga are the two best stories I've ever seen in any video game, period. So, but the thing is, they focus so heavily on story that I think perhaps Monolith Soft, they wanted to pull back on that just a nudge and focus a little bit more on gameplay and exploration, which they did. The Xenoblade games, all three of them, you're exploring these big, massive worlds, and there's different optional side quests you can do. Xenogears and Xenosaga, these are more linear and just telling, like, the best story you've ever been told. So it's different a little bit. The Xenoblades are a little bit more focused on gameplay with a healthy amount of storytelling, but the Xenosagas and Gears are, totally pushed in the realm of storyline. But, as is, the story here, I won't spoil too much, is still really good, and it connects a little bit to the other two games, but, not as crazy as you're thinking. It's very much a standalone game, and exploring the vast landscapes and experiencing the different quests did engross me from start to finish. So when I finished with this game after 3 weeks, 9 out of 10. Which is the same score I gave to Xenoblade 1 and 2. This one might eke out the edge in terms of maybe barely being my favorite out of the three. But all three are great. All three are 9s out of 10s. But Xenogears, that's a 10 out of 10. And the Xenosaga trilogy, rated as one game, is a 10 out of 10. So, those I prefer a little bit. But these are still great. Now, right after finishing the base game, I jumped right into the DLC, which is the Future Redeemed expansion. And, the base game I beat on normal, start to finish. The DLC, I started on normal for the first 3 chapters, but then right when chapter 4 starts, there's 5 chapters, right when chapter 4 starts, there's a crazy difficulty spike, and I lowered it down to easy mode. And it was still a challenge to get all the way through. I still had to do a ton of side quests. Easy mode is not a walk in the park. It's still a good challenging game. And but yeah, so the DLC. Let's see here. Much like Torna, compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It's just a great little expansion that just enhances the overall base game. The base game is the meat and potatoes, but, the DLC is a satisfying dessert, a very good dessert, but it doesn't overtake the base game. The base game, like I said, is the meat and potatoes. I felt that about Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I do feel that about Part 3 as well, compared to the expansion. The Future Redeemed expansion does kick things off with a heavy dose of fan service by bringing back Rex and Shulk, who were the two main characters in the first 2 games, respectively. And that's awesome. There was, like I said, there wasn't too much connection in the base game, but in this Future Redeemed expansion, it takes place 1,000 years before the base game, and without spoiling too much or explaining too much, Rex, the main hero of Part 2, and Shulk, the main hero of Part 1, do come and team up with one of the ancestors of the main hero in the 3rd game. But, But yeah, like I said, it takes place 1,000 years before the base game, so it's kind of a footnote as far as what happens there, but it makes certain past details a little bit more clear with the villain N and some of the stuff he does for Zed. They don't explain too much more about Zed, though, and his origin. I wish they did. That's kind of something I was a little bit disappointed by, because like I said, they didn't explain him too well, Zed, in the base game of Part 3. Let's see. The main villain here was Alpha, who is connected to Alvis from the first game, and to be honest, my memory of the first game, I played that back in 2012. Right now it's 2023, so that was 11 years ago. My memory is a little bit fuzzy. I did watch a couple of YouTube recaps on the first game's story to kind of refresh my memory and catch up a little bit, so thank God for YouTube, that helped me, but yeah, I had to refresh my memory about that. They also go into a lot of the stuff about the past, way back in the past, that they discuss at the end of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I don't want to spoil too much. That was very cool. And, you know, besides the story and the expansion, they offered the same, very similar great exploration and battling, just like there was in the base game. So, in conclusion, this expansion, which is not a separate game, it just strengthens and overall enhances a little bit the 9 out of 10 that I gave to the base game of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So, there you have it, 9 out of 10 for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 with and without the expansion. Yeah, I look forward to seeing what Monolith Soft does next. Maybe they'll go back to Xenosaga, maybe remake it, we'll see. But it should be interesting. I don't know if they can go back to Xenogears, because I think this is property of Squaresoft. But anyways, yeah. So, yeah, I highly recommend all three of these Xenoblades. The third one is a great game. And have a nice day.